our speakers here are definitely no strangers to challenge. Today, these three amazing ladies are here to share with us their personal experience in dealing with challenges and also their thoughts on what it means to be a leader. And before we jump into the conversation, we actually have a quick poll for everyone. Please do help us to fill out this poll. You should be seeing the poll coming up in a few seconds. And after the poll is done, we will be sharing the poll results during the conversation later. Also, if anyone from the audience have any questions for our speakers, you may drop in your questions in the link provided in the chat box. Then we will try to go through them, all of them, if time allows. And yep, is the poll up? So you should be seeing the poll now. Sorry, I think there was a technical glitch with the poll. Okay, I think we will do the poll later. So maybe so I think maybe we just move on with the webinar, with the conversation. Okay, so maybe as a warming up session, let's start with something light, going one round starting from Puan Nick and then Puan Mona and Puan Duraini. So as I understand from Puan Duraini, the three of you are very close to each other and you have been organizing several initiatives to support women in finance. Could you perhaps share with us more about your background and how you came to know each other? So to you, Puan Nick.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jahe. Hi, everyone. So basically, I think this industry for Malaysia, the finance industry is actually relatively a small industry. So you cannot avoid not meeting one another at some function or another. So over the years, I think we've known each other through the network at the workplace. And as a result, based on the conversations that we've had and all that, and also comparison note in terms of our experiences and so far over the years, that has made us become close to one another. Not because we have same opinions, but because we have different opinions. So we always refer to one another whenever we have issues or whenever we have certain topics that we want to discuss. So that's how we became close. And then, of course, the subject matter of women, how do we empower the women in the industry? That has always been a subject matter that is very close to all of our hearts. Thank you.
Well, as for me, having been in the industry for more than 29 years, it would have been impossible for me not to meet these two ladies and bumping into them almost every other events and work or even social events. And then over the years, we develop trust and also relationship, not only professionally, but as Puan Nick mentioned, we got to know each other better, and then we also bounce ideas, and I've been very fortunate to get to know Duraini as well. She's a lot younger than me, a lot younger. And it was through her that she actually highlighted the word mentoring. And then I said to myself, am I capable of mentoring people? And then, so with Nick, she has always been a very strong figure in my life. You can imagine how strong she is. She doesn't even realize how strong she is. So I am very, very honored, to have to know these two ladies here. They inspire me. So that's why we are here today. Thank you, Juhi.
Oh, thanks, Puan Mona, and thanks, Puan Nick, for such lovely words, such kind words. For me, I don't have the number of years to boast. I definitely have not been in the market long enough, but definitely met these two lovely ladies through work originally. But sometimes you as a young person in the industry, you always look for figureheads that you can emulate, that you can can inspire you. And I think that's pretty much how it started. The conversation or the communication went beyond work. And when I started getting to know these ladies even better, I felt, I should not be sharing their inspirational journey to myself. I should be keeping their inspirational journey to myself. And it's something that I wish more ladies my age, back then I was slightly younger, would be able to have access to. And I'm just happy that you mentioned earlier, Jihoy, about Women in Finance initiative that I did with a few other ladies in the industry, and that have brought together these ladies, Puan Mona, Puan Nik, and many others, to the forefront towards the young ladies in the industry, not just to inspire us to do well at our jobs, but just also inspire us to keep on doing well in life, be it as a professional in a corporate, or be it as a mother, a daughter, a wife, and so forth. And all of this, I think, is emulated and packaged together very well by these two ladies. And I'm happy that now we can bring it to a larger audience as well.
Thank you, Puan Nik, Puan Mona, and Puan Dura. I think that's very nice to hear that how the three of you met each other and grow this into such a strong relationship. I think one thing that we also do notice is from a society's perspective is that we have a lot of members and candidates within our community, but that especially, and also thanks to COVID, we were not able to have a lot of engaging activities. So I think one of the key initiatives that our society has recently just launched is also the mentoring program, in hopes that we would be able to help the future leaders to grow up, step up, and become better in what they do. So I think definitely this is something that would be very useful, especially for ladies. So I definitely look forward to any future collaborations with all of you. So having come so far in your career, we believe that there must be a lot of ups and downs. And from what we have gathered, your leadership has, from the news and from all the stories the legends that we have heard about, your leadership has been in high demand, especially during critical times. And this by itself is a testament of the skill sets and the value you bring to the table. So I think perhaps now can we quickly share the results of the poll? And I would like to see what are our audience feeling at the moment on the topic of challenge. Okay, so to everyone out there, you should be seeing the poll results. So the first question that in our poll is, are you currently facing any challenge at work which you think is gender related? So from the women's, I think the result is a little bit of a half-half. So half of them think that yes, they are facing challenge which are gender related, and the other half doesn't think so. For men, is quite an obvious split. Only 2%, only two of the 19 respondents agree that they are facing challenge which are gender related, which is quite interesting. So there could be many factors that we are unfortunately unable to tell from this simple poll itself. But obviously, from what we can gather, is that gender is still might be a challenge, especially in the business world. So sorry, can we hide the poll results? Yeah. So I think if you look at the results, in fact, I don't think this is very surprising. So now I think I would like to hear from our speakers on a personal challenge that you have faced, you have experienced, and I hope you have conquered by now. So I'm mindful that this is an International Women's Day special webinar, but I believe that the experience you share need not to be gender related. So just like what we have seen in the poll result, every experience is unique. So feel free to bring out any stories based on your personal experience. So since Puan Nik has went on earlier, first earlier just now, I think now we'll start with Puan Mona. Puan Mona, to you.
Thanks very much, Jihoy. So as you mentioned, my background, before I joined Affin Hwang, I was with Nomura for 11 years. And, Nomura, being a Japanese firm, it is notoriously male dominated. Okay, especially in terms of the senior management. But, I was pleasantly surprised that they had policies on diversity and inclusion. And as a result, they even have this WIN program, Women in Nomura program, where for many years I was quite active. So when I joined Nomura, at that time, I didn't understand how it was. And to be honest with you, I have no gender or age biases. To me, everyone is the same, but what differentiates people are their merits and also their values. So that's why, even though Nomura, as everyone knows, a Japanese firm, is male dominated, I never really had that fear inside me. But of course, when I joined and I discovered actually I should have had that fear. So since then, I also had to make sure that Malaysia performs. And so the challenge for me was to get the group to recognize the value of the Malaysian franchise. So the good thing is that in the financial industry, it is also gender bias. There's no gender biasness in the financial industry. If you can perform, your bosses recognizes that performance. So it's not matter whether you're a lady or a man. If you do your work well and with strong responsibility, I think you can overcome the challenges faced by a lot of those who are fearful of this biasness. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamona. I think that's very nice to hear from your experience. In fact, I think I guess what they say, ignorance is a bliss. That probably helps when you don't know what to fear, you don't have that fear and nothing holds you back from what you want to do. So that's definitely a very interesting experience. Okay, maybe now we move on to Puan Dura.
Sure, thanks, Jihui. I'm going to echo what Mona mentioned earlier. I strongly believe in that. I mean, I probably am either a minority or not, but I also do not really feel a strong sense of gender discrimination or gender biasness in this industry. And of course, my time in the industry is very short, about close to 14 years now. And I never felt that from all the organizations I've been with, and I've been across a government-linked company. I was also in an American firm, and I'm now in an Asian firm, a Hong Kong, China firm. So I don't feel that sense of gender issues pertaining to working in this industry. But I think being a young leader, I think probably the biggest challenge that I face is actually the age thing. When you're a young leader and most of the professionals are pretty much at around your same age group, I think that is where the biggest challenge is. How do you actually navigate and lead the organization when the age gap is very close? And I'm sure there are other age-related issues, even though Pamona rightly pointed out is more merit, that I may have to face in the future, or many other young leaders face, for instance, managing older subordinates, managing subordinates of the same age. And the challenge here is real, because on the one hand, you're all in the same age group, but on the other hand, you as the leader has the responsibility and accountability to lead these people to achieve the objectives of the company. So I think that was actually a big challenge. And that's how I also look around at people like Pamona and Puan Nik, leaders in the industry, that whilst of course they are ahead in relation to my age group, but at some point they were leading people of the same age group as them as well. So it's good to bounce ideas to see exactly what they had to go through in order to get where they are and continuously doing the work effectively despite that age issue. So I would say for me, despite the gender, gender was never an issue. It was really me being a young leader. And to that, I would also add, I was appointed to become the leader of Value Partners Malaysia at a very challenging time. It was during MCO, COVID-19. So some of my earlier initiatives were all done remotely. So how do I motivate my team to work with me, or to work together with me when we're all just looking at each other via laptop, right? And I think that was quite difficult, because you don't get to build the same bond that you do in the office than you do over Zoom. You can't bring people out for lunch and get to know each other better and understand the pain points. So the effort went beyond just what you would do in the office. You know, the more catching ups, the more you meet them in person, you try to talk to them a little bit more to understand the team better, because in the end of the day, that is the challenge, but the challenge may also impact the output of the company, which is what I am tasked to lead on, right? So all of this was, I think, probably some of the biggest challenge that I faced in the short 13 years plus of experience that I have in the industry.
Thanks, Pandira. So I think I definitely can echo with you on the challenge you have faced on the fact that we coming from an Asian community, we tend to see age as experience. So if you see someone who is more senior than you, you naturally you would have a sense of respect for that person. But I think like when you go into the business world, sometimes it doesn't happen like that. But I think from my own experience coming from a consulting background, I am always I'm always on the edge to learn something new, and sometimes I have to learn it from someone much more younger than me. So I think that has put me that has in a way it has groomed myself to always learn from whoever can teach. It doesn't necessarily has to be someone older than you, or anyone with a job title. I think that is definitely something a lot of us can take away here. So speaking of learning experience, yeah, sorry, Pandira, you have anything to share with us again?
Oh no, but yeah, you're right. Back to the point on your Asian values. Whilst that was one of probably the issues as well, right? When you were managing more senior subordinates. But in the end of the day, I find those values to be very important, because the workplace is not just a place to get things done, right? The workplace is also a place to coexist, to nurture your best qualities and bring out the best in one another. And whilst being transparent and being vocal are very important traits, but the Asian values of respect, of knowing, how to say the right things at the right time, I think those are also really important traits. So as much as it is a challenge, but it also contributes to harmonizing relationships in the workplace as well.
Yes, definitely. And to us, every challenge is actually a learning opportunity, if you think about it. In fact, I mean, if you think about in investment terms, every risk is also an opportunity for you to make more returns. Okay, so I guess we'll now move on to our last speaker, Puan Nick. Maybe you could share about who Puan Nick has one of the most interesting background, having worked with generals in the past. So to you, Puan Nick.
Thank you very much, Ms. Juhi. I can certainly concur with my esteemed fellow panelists that this industry is very difficult for you to fake it, actually, in terms of your success, because your track record will follow you. Numbers don't lie, right? So it's very difficult for you to consistently perform, based on numbers. That's one. Number two, just to prove that actually from age perspective, I'm actually quite age agnostic. My previous CIO, Chief Investment Officer, he became the Chief Investment Officer at the age of 36, 37. So there you go. So it's not about the age, it's about what you bring to the table. But maybe I maybe want to share a bit in terms of the challenge that I faced in the early years. Yeah, it's a matter of lack of confidence. I think a lot of us ladies think that, we are the shy type, we are the introverts and all that. How do you sound confident? How do you go to the table? Right now, if you see me walk in the room, you think that I'm this, this confident lady who can just do wonders, right? But let me tell you, it did not start that way. I still remember clearly one of the most memorable moment for me was in the early years when I had to present to Tan Sri Tait Mahmud, okay, in his gold-plated room, gold-plated chairs and tables. So I went into the room feeling very nervous, and my hands were totally shaking and my voice were, fluctuating in and out, right? And I decided, when I stepped out of the room, I decided that I did not wish to face that situation again. So what I did was actually, I had to practice, practice in the sense that, number one, maybe this is actually a few tips that may work on some of you. For example, do your homework in terms of who the person is. And then maybe when you step into the room, please put on a big smile. Yeah. and also make it a bit more personal in the sense that you know something about the person. Just start with something light, something easy. Start that conversation rather than go straight into the presentation. Basically, an icebreaker would be very useful. Wear your best clothes, for example. You know, to make you feel that confident. Walk tall. That would be very useful as well. And if you have anything in common, any topic, conversations in common, please share it, you know, just mention it, just as an icebreaker. I think after that, things will be a lot easier. If you think that it's a big challenge, start small, use small steps, use it on your colleagues, use it on your supervisors at work and all that. Start small and you will see over time, you will improve, because obviously nothing will happen overnight. It does take effort to improve. So that's the first one. And the second one is the challenge that I face at work, because I don't know, many of you may not know this. I have 6 children, 6 children in the first 9 years of my career life. So I was out of the office like 40% of the, or I was pregnant 40% of the time, and much time was spent also on maternity leave and so forth. But I still got promoted throughout those years. Because of the work that you put in, it doesn't mean that you're not productive. So you have to make sure that your time spent at office is a productive one, you know, that would help the organization to grow further. But one challenge, I still remember clearly when my eldest was sick, was hospitalized. And so I had to take emergency leave, yeah. So when I came back to the office during in between, I think it was about 8 days that he was in the hospital. So my boss called me to the office and asked me, you know, to basically so, but I had to tell him that, you know, family is very important to me. And if I have to take leave, I have to take leave. But the point is that, you know, how I overcame that was actually basically to share the truth, you know, to share the truth, and also promise myself that to have greater empathy when I am in that position to make that decision, to understand my team members better, right? And to understand my colleagues better, because, you know, we're not robots. We all have our responsibilities to family, to friends, to society, and all that. So I think for the greater good, I think as much as possible, we try to assist to be more understanding. But having said that, the same boss actually gave me a promotion after that. So just to show that, you know, it doesn't mean that it's negative. You just have to explain your position, and there's no need to be sorry about it, because it is your responsibility as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Nick. I think your experience is, your first experience about the handshaking was something that I myself have done the same thing before. So maybe if I can just quickly share. So during my high school time, I went for an interview for a position with the high school editorial committee board, and my English was so bad that my hand was shaking also. And then I asked like if I could switch my interview language to Chinese. So yeah, so the interviewer was very kind in allowing that. Then from then onwards, every time whenever I see someone struggling with speaking, it always reminds me of like how far I have come myself, and we shouldn't go too hard on someone else who has not gained the confidence yet. Sometimes all they need is a little push. And then on the note of your pregnancy, on your family, I think that was something commonly known in not just within the industry, but in a broader sense, that that there has always been a lot of stigma maybe on pregnant ladies when it comes to work, because usually the ladies, they are seen to be non-productive during the pregnancy time. But I'm very happy that you were recognized for your value. In fact, I guess for the investment industries, we all look at numbers, and numbers don't lie. So it's all just about the numbers. So that's in a way is very good for the ladies working in these industries. All right.
A quick one. One addition information. I moved to RHB Estate when I was 6 months pregnant.
Oh, So,
Yes,
and they
that's
knew you were
top.
pregnant, and they recognized your value, and they just took you in anyway.
So this industry is actually quite good to women, I must say.
Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
That's very good to hear, because I've been hearing a lot of horror stories saying that the lady was rejected because they were like a few months in pregnancy, and then they have been getting horrible comments on how they would go out of work after joining the company. So that is something very pleasant to hear in this industry. So hopefully the time will change for others, and you know, when we talk about our family, it's not just about the ladies, but also about the men, the fathers. So in fact, some my company has also not so recently, some time ago, some years ago, they have also started allowing for paternity leave. So in a way, it's good to support mothers, because if you only give the maternity leaves to the mother and you don't give any to the father, so the expectation will always fall on the mother to utilize those leave, because she is entitled to it, but the father will continue to continue working. So it doesn't really help with the gender imbalance. Yeah. So maybe I will move on to the next topic. So in overcoming the challenge that you have just shared, I like to know how you have built your confidence in the process. So knowing that there are actually not many women role models, especially in this industry and back in your time, maybe could you share what kind of support did you have? Was it from a mentor, a support group, or friends, and families? So I guess we'll start with Wandura.
Sure. Thanks, Jihui. For me, in terms of building confidence, so far what has worked is know your subject matter, always be prepared. And I know it sounds so cliche because it is a given, but I think many of us don't really take it to heart. We forget that it's very important to have depth in everything that we do, but in understanding how our depth fits into the ecosystem of our sector, we also need to have the diversified knowledge of our entire sector. For instance, in finance or asset management, there's no one role, right? There is some key roles, and there's a lot of other factors that surround that role in making asset management business or managing investments for pension funds and so forth effective. So to build the confidence to be able to do that in my short 13 plus years, I would say is be prepared. And to be prepared is to really go deep into your subject matter. I didn't really start off as a finance major. I never thought that I would actually be in capital markets. I was actually a law graduate, and I was called to the bar in the UK. In fact, I actually worked part-time as a paralegal in a law firm when I first came back to Malaysia while working full-time. So I never really knew anything about capital markets until I started from Wadala National Berhad in PNB. And I always took that as a disadvantage, that I never had the accounting background. I never had economics background. So I took it upon myself to learn more, to learn the depth of my subject matter, be it equity analysis, and then I moved on to fund management, and I tried out many different markets. So when it comes to talking about investments or analyzing investments, I would say that preparation work was pretty much how I built my confidence in getting there. And then it translated into numbers, which then later in life, as you continue to progress and look for newer opportunities, it's the number that speaks for itself. So to that, exactly building confidence for me was entirely in being prepared. What I would add to that is that very interestingly, I came into the market at a time when technology was really evolving, right? We had the smartphones, which means that when we joined the industry at a younger age, we had access to information that maybe some of our seniors only had later in life. So things were moving so rapidly. So whilst we were already fast enough at that time, but because technology was so much more faster, then the threat of competition from younger graduates was actually quite real. So what do you do, right? Do you focus on one skill set and expect to survive? And it probably works for some. But for me, I've experienced that diversifying my skill sets and experiences is what have worked. I never shy away from any task, from the smallest things of organizing an eating session in the department, to organizing big trips and helping with projects on top of managing funds. I took it all on myself. And the reason why I did that was because I really felt that if I knew enough about the industry, then I would be more confident to continue growing in it, right? And for me, it was a function of thriving and surviving, not just because there were probably ambitions, which back then I didn't really recognize, but it was also a means to survive. Because in the end of the day, when you're working, it's really for you to survive. You want to provide for your family. You don't have to be a husband or a wife. Even as a daughter, you do want to give your best to your parents, to your siblings, to your friends. And that's what motivates you, right? So how do you continuously grow yourself so that you can fulfill that role? And that's how that need to always be prepared really mattered. And then when the opportunity comes, and the confidence requires it, that preparation is what actually was the foundation for me to move forward. So being prepared at a young age, I think, is most important to build the confidence. Thanks, Jihui.
Thanks, Fadira. Well, you did mention about you would always take up all the jobs whenever the tasks whenever they were given to you. I think that is something definitely I can resonate with. Usually the things that you think are not important when you were doing them, eventually one day they'll come back to you and you'll find that the skill sets and also the experience that you have gained throughout those times were actually very handy when you need them. So personally, I also like to take every opportunity in the work that I have been tasked to. So then many times I also do feel that I'm not too sure why am I doing this, but I do learn a lot. And eventually when I need the skills, then it is actually the aha moment, like the eureka moment, like, hey, I have actually know this, I can do this. Like it's not an issue to me. Or sometimes in even a better way, sometimes I would have a similar situation but with a slight twist. But then because we have done something before, and maybe also because we have done the research and done our job well, the preparations and whatnot, we are actually ready for that opportunity. So it's really about learning while you can. So thanks Pandura for sharing that with us. Maybe next we'll go with Nick.
Yes, I call that discretionary effort. Actually, efforts that you put in without anyone telling you to do so. So actually, typically in any organizations, what I realized that those who actually grow fast in their career are the ones who actually put in their discretionary effort, meaning that they would do a lot more than what their job function state actually. So because with that, whenever there are opportunities for any positions, there are higher positions to be made available. So their names would just naturally come up because they know exactly what to do for that particular job requirements that will fulfill that job requirement. So I would strongly urge everyone to not say no to anything that you can participate in, in fact, volunteer to take on more jobs, more functions that you can, if possible, that's within your means. And the other part is that I think for the ones who aspire to grow in their career, I would also urge to ask yourself as well, whether or not, what do you bring to the table? What is that one thing that you are the best at in that particular organization? Okay. For myself, over the years, since I was merely an investment officer at the beginning of my career, I actually would voluntarily become the chief editor for some reason. Not that I write well, but for some reason I actually, because it's part and parcel of, I like to read. Therefore, when I do the reading, whenever I volunteer to edit anything that comes out of the organization that goes to the public and so forth, I not only learn to write better, but also learn more about the products, about the way that we present the proposal papers and so forth. So it added value to me. So I think I would urge, I think all those listening in, to find that special skill that you have, that, at any one time, whenever the bosses require that special skill, and people will always point to you, refer to this person, this young junior person, because she's the best there is, right? Yeah, so that's the other part. As far as the, I think, mentors you mentioned just now, who has helped me over the years, what I realized is that the mentors tried to find me. I don't know why they decided that, you know, for me to be their mentees, and they are way, way older than I am. And typically I would meet them as they were my ex-bosses, some of them. And some of them I met at functions or the conferences and all that. And they just wanted to keep in touch after. But their functions actually differ in terms of their special skill sets. For each one of them would differ, because in terms of, for example, from legal perspective, I will have one mentor from that perspective. Personal also, I will have a different mentor. So there is no such thing as one mentor who would fit all. In fact, my closest mentor, I've told him before that I actually disagree with the way he managed the team. Yeah, the way that he managed, because it's a bit old school. He thinks it should be hierarchical and all that, when I think there should be a lot more engagement, where everyone is equal. When it comes to job functions, you just fulfill within what you're supposed to do, right? You have to deliver, and perhaps also over deliver in terms of what you need to do in the office. So that came into being because he was telling me not to be too close with my support staff, because we went out to lunch often. So I said, you know, when it comes to work, it's work. But when it comes to personal time, I think we must be friends with everyone. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Vijay.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. That was a very interesting sharing. So on the topic of mentor, I guess in a way, when you look at mentors, it's not just it's definitely very difficult to have a one size fits all, and even throughout the times, your so-called maybe your one size fits all mentor might not remain the mentor in your life. So I guess one of the key resource that young professionals need to build up at this point is definitely the networking, the networks context. So in fact, I think I had one story from one of my friends. She was very active in doing all these co-curriculum activities, and this is after university. So and her boss actually said to her, I wasn't doing any of this during my time, and I noticed that a lot of you youngsters nowadays tend to do a lot of this in like this new generation is very different from what we have seen in the past. So it's very interesting to see how times have changed and people are seeing networking in a different light. All right, so I think we have gone through on how you have overcome your challenges and building the confidence. So now we'll move on to, I think, one of the last and also the very important topic, which is what is your view on women leaders? So being in the leadership position as a woman, what are your thoughts? And just to give a bit more context, you have all shared the efforts and also commitments you have put into supporting your juniors, supporting women in finance. So do you think women leaders, or in a broader context, minority leaders, do you think these leaders have more responsibilities on their shoulder? So if you can quickly look at the poll result. So just now, from what we have seen, this is we'll be looking at the second question. So it should be showing up in your screen in a while. Sorry, is the poll result showing? Okay. So basically our second, maybe just while waiting for the poll to appear. So in the second questions, we do actually ask, do the audience think that women leaders have more responsibilities? So if I recall correctly, most of the women agree that women leaders definitely have more responsibilities. Yes, so here you go. Here's the poll result. So from the women pool, more than half of the women agrees that women leaders have greater responsibilities as compared to men. And from the men is somewhat of a split, but it tilts slightly towards the yes, women leaders still have a greater responsibilities. So yes, I think so that is a general consensus from our audience. Perhaps we can let's see what do you think about it? Maybe Pamona, can you start?
Okay. Maybe I'll share with you my history when I first started. I started out as an analyst, and unfortunately, I was a very passionate analyst because I worked very long hours. I would be in the office by 7 in the morning, and I'm home at 11 at night, and I used to do that every day, every single day. I was very passionate. So anyway, unfortunately, again, uh, my habit is I do get into work quite early in the morning, and I also work till very late, and time is, as you know, very limited. So people ask me, do you have a work-life balance? I said, don't be like me. I don't have a work-life balance. But Alhamdulillah, I do have a strong support and coping mechanism, which is in the form of my husband. So before I embarked on what I had to do, my work, my husband, I did discuss about how to assist me in what I need to do, in my working life. So when you talk about women, yes, they are overburdened in that sense because they have the family to take care of, and then they also have the responsibilities at the office. So I was saying to myself, if I ever do become a leader, I want to make sure I will try my best to create an environment where staff can have a work-life balance. And the beautiful thing about today is that we have technology, and MCO showed that you can have work-life balance. And we have seen how you can work at home and at the same time still contribute to the organization and also spend quality time with your family. So I think the leaders of today, I think, are more compassionate. Just imagine, I used to work from 7 to 11, okay? And my bosses expected me to stay in the office. So anyway, I don't blame my bosses. It was basically me. It's what I love to do. So I think in that sense, I think women, we do need to have that support system, the coping mechanism to be able to excel in whatever we do, because at the end of the day, we need peace of mind. Yeah, we need peace of mind to make sure that everything's okay at home and that we can deliver, inshallah, whatever that our stakeholders require us to do. Thanks.
Thank you, Pamona. I think it's quite amazing to be hearing how you have been continuing the same lifestyle for from working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I think that is quite crazy. In fact, if you read the news, lately a certain investment bank has made headlines over some survey made by their investment analysts. So definitely, I think times are changing, and there is a lot. We are actually very privileged to have much more flexibility in how we work, and also thanks to technology and also having compassionate bosses. In fact, having those experience ourselves, in a way, it makes us better as we are able to empathize with the people who when we see them in the same shoes that we were in back then. So I think that's definitely an experience that is worth remembering. So perhaps we move on to Pandura. Maybe could you share about yours?
Sure. I think there are a few things that I wanted to just bring together to answer that question. First and foremost, going back to about mentorship, right? Mona mentioned earlier that I taught her the word mentor. And yes, I am very proud to say that Puan Mona is my mentor from the time I met her when I was working in the first company that I was with, PNB, and she has really helped me grow. And I think because there are quite a number of young professionals here, I cannot assert anymore how important it is to actually have a mentor. And the mentor is not so much about, it's not just about guiding you as a young professional, but it's also important to have a mentor for you to discover yourself, right? There are parts of you that maybe you do not know exists, or maybe there are probably certain traits that you over embellish for yourself, and a mentor is there to, you know, keep you in check, to give you that guidance. Because I think what we get to tend carried away with is actually that there are all these aspirations and all these ambitions, right? So how are we going to get there? And sometimes it's very important to have someone who's more objective, to give you a realistic lowdown on how exactly or what exactly the facts are for you to progress forward. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about that because I thought that was very important. And I also echo what Mona said just now about leadership of women in the workplace, right? Or if at all, there's more expected out of women than there are of men. I thought about this long and hard because, of course, it's easy to look at it from a gender lens when we're talking about challenges in the workplace. But I don't think it's as simple as that. I do believe deep in my heart that expectations of either male or female leaders or staff, employees are all the same. The expectation is exactly the same. It really is as an individual, whether or not you want to meet up to the expectation. And oftentimes, I think women fall victim to be seen as to be less competent or not up to the standard or not able to fulfill 7 to 11 like how Mona did for so many years, simply because of the other parts of life. And it's all a personal choice. You can work from 7 to 11 and just because it doesn't fall into the definition of work-life balance for one person, it doesn't mean it doesn't fall into the same definition for another person. So it's really yours to define. But there are all these other factors, right? That's very important for you to understand. Uh, Traditionally, Asian women, we are tasked or we voluntarily take on more roles at home, right? And there's no right or wrong around it. It is really just a function of choice, a function of upbringing. And that obviously then has an impact of how you are at the workplace. So when you are already drained by expectations of at home, either by yourself or by your family, then naturally at the workplace, your performance will also vary based on that. All right. And then because of that, then there is this misconception that, oh, because the woman finds it more difficult to deliver the same amount of work as a man, therefore the expectation on women is actually more. In the end of the day, the expectation of the organization is the same, which is they want a certain output. If it's investment, I want this target at the end of the year. If it's brokerage, right, Mona, it's about brokerage fees by the end of the year. This is your target. It's all the same target. It's just that the individual circumstances that will determine how effective is that leader in executing all that needs to be done to achieve those targets. So then how do you manage that, right? When there are so many other factors that are weighing down on women that affects them in the workplace compared to men. To me, it's simple. I'm so young. I haven't gone through so much just yet. But I think first and foremost, it's obviously the cliche answer again, to have supportive family members or supportive spouse. And that means having someone to help you with laundry. That means someone making sure that there's food at the table when you fall short. You know, that means someone accepts that the house is not going to be as neat as it needs to be simply because you're trying to balance it all. That's one, and that's very ideal. But you can't control how others are. You can't control your parents, your spouse, you know, the ecosystem, you can't. So you can only control yourself. So you must also be a bit more forgiving with yourself. If you need to take half an hour in the morning to just drink a cup of coffee on your own and switch off your phone, as long as it doesn't interfere with your work, then you do it. And if your work falls short, for instance, your editing didn't become, wasn't the most perfect editing, yeah, feel frustrated a little bit, but don't let it take over you. So what I always tell my team is that focus on the big battles. There are small battles, and I'm not saying lose the small battles. You do the small battles, but don't let the small battles take over you, because the last thing that you want is that when you're so busy fighting all these small battles in the hopes of being on par with everyone at work or at home, then it just dilutes the quality that you do in everything else, right? From being an employee, a leader, a team member, a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter. So there's no point in just focusing so much on the small battles. Don't forget the details, but think about the bigger issue at hand. And I think that is very important, because then it ties back to mental health And when you are mentally healthy, it has a positive effect on everyone around you, be it your friends, your colleagues, even your boss, right? So those are some of the things that I think we need to learn. We need to probably take note of that ourselves in understanding why exactly do we feel like as a woman in the workplace, so much more is put on us compared to an equal male counterpart. Thank you.
Thank you, Fandura, for everything you have shared. I can definitely echo with you, and I think you definitely raised a very good point on the individual circumstances. Sometimes it's not really about a leader being a bad leader, but sometimes it's just because they're of their own individual circumstances, they aren't able to see through the lens of others, and that creates a misunderstanding of all is well. So why are you the one suffering? So in fact, I think a clear communication here would be in a way is good to clear up the air and help to solve the situation. But then again, it's not as simple as just a quick chat over coffee or something. So I think also I'm being mindful of the time, and so I think we'll just move on to our last one and only Puanik. So here you go, Puanik.
Thank you. I think over the years, what I realized is that certain things that I've observed in my bosses, my supervisors in the past, my colleagues, there are the do's and the don'ts, right? You take the positive side and you try to avoid the negative parts, you try to avoid doing the negative parts. But one thing I noticed that has helped me a lot over the years, and which I do a lot of nowadays at Co-op, at LTAT, is engagement sessions. I do a lot of that actually, not just at the group level, but also at individual level. We currently do, for example, monthly town halls. Besides that, we also have I also do a meet up with the individual departments, and I have kind of basically just get my ears wide open and just jot down notes in terms of the wishes of my colleagues, what things that they think we are good at, things that they think that we can do better at, things that they want us to did you want to see anymore, for example. So take down the notes and make sure that we listen. I think as a women leader, I think the responsibility, the added responsibility is as far as when requests are made, as far as to assist other women to overcome issues, that the challenges that they face. That is the additional responsibility that I think that we as women leader we have to basically make sure that we don't have any biases towards any particular gender, and to make sure that not just we have the empathy, but also our colleagues, to encourage them to have empathy towards one another, not just for mothers, but also for fathers as well, actually. In the case of if the wife is not well, I think you expect the spouse, the man, your colleague, male colleagues, to be there when their wives are not well, or when their child is not well, for example. So the empathy must always be consciously promoted at workplace. And also conversations. We must have engagements often, because only then I think the trust will be there. That's the other part, whenever we have excuse, for example, we have to take emergency leave because of family issue matter, so we have to trust that that's exactly what the person needs at that point of time, because only that person knows what they need at that time. So I think that is quite crucial, when it comes to, particularly in the future as well, as and when we have a lot of this work from anywhere, work from home, where we do engagement via virtual. So we have to do a lot more frequent engagement, because it's not like we can see and raise hands, saying hi to one another, at the lift and all that, right? It must be consciously done, set up the time to engage. So I think we have to do a lot more of that, particularly going forward. And also to have that shared vision and shared objectives, because it is a lot easier to trust people when the other side actually know exactly what we require of them to deliver. That is my view on the matter, Mr. Hui. Thank you.
Thank you, Puanik. All right, so we are actually at 7:03 p.m. now, slightly over time. I actually do have one more question for our speakers, but I think I will try to combine this with the final words. So now let's just quickly go through with the questions that we have collected on Meeting Pulse. So so far here we have quite a number of them, but due to time limit, unfortunately we can't go through all of them. So I think I would check for the top questions and see which ones are highly voted. So if any one of you, probably we'll pick 2 or 3 questions. If any one of you out there feels that there's any questions that you have a burning desire to have us answered, to please go and vote, upvote the question. Then we'll pick it later. So I think the first question here is, let's see. Okay, so I think I'll pick this question. How should we address comments from men that women at top management positions are difficult women? So who wants to take a go? Yes. To you,
Sorry,
Pandey.
sorry, whoever who asked that question. The worst boss I've had was a man. But I think because we've always been seen, there's this perception that we micromanage. Okay, that the male bosses are a lot better at delegating, or not wanting to look at these small items, granular details, and all that. But there are a few things that I think this would be also. I don't think it's gender specific. It's just maybe nature, because they prefer to be some of us, even for myself, I prefer to read all board papers, for example, all my proposal papers and all that before we table to the board, because the owner of that paper, if I have to put my signature on it, I have to read it. That's the part. But for other parts is that, yeah, we have to delegate, but delegation is not, I think, specific problem for the female gender. I think it affects male gender as well, so it is applicable to all of us. But I think the part where engagement has got to happen more frequently, and the understanding between two parties, if they occur more often, I think we would find that difficult bosses is a lot easier for you to be working with. Actually, I think you have to get to know the person better, to have common kind of shared experiences. I think that would improve that relationship better.
All right, thank you, Panik. Puan Dura or Puan Mona, would you like to jump in as well? In fact, actually, this question it seems to be a common theme that I am seeing in the list of questions here. So from what I gather, it seems like the perception is that a female supervisor is known as being difficult because of their meticulous, because how meticulous they can be. So I personally, I also do a lot of review work, and at times I do notice my junior will be running away when they see me coming with the comments. So but I guess in a way that is also because we are somehow more detailed. We are more detailed than guys, but then again, I could be wrong, because we shouldn't stereotype.
Actually, the ones, just to share, actually, a person that I know who's very, very smart, the smartest guys, actually, they find it difficult to delegate, just to let you know, because they think they can do better than anyone else. So I think that one is actually not specific to any, not gender specific.
Gender.
Yeah.
Yep. I do know also there are some guys who are very thoughtful. So when it comes to comes to delegation, or when it comes to being detail-minded, I think these are not entirely all gender-based. Yeah. Okay. So perhaps if I would pick the last question from here, let me see. So we actually have one question directed at Puan Dura on your legal background. So okay, I would like to give a chance to this person. If you would like to speak directly to Puan Dura, you can raise your hand or unmute yourself. If not, then
Hi,
I will.
yeah, hi,
Uh,
hi, I'm Hadina.
Hi,
So
Adina.
hi, Poindra. I'm actually from a similar background. I'm from a legal background, and currently my work involves mainly reviewing investments, investment documentations. But I'm actually looking towards actually moving to the front office side to become an investment analyst. But I find it now it's quite difficult in a sense that there's little to no support in my current firm. So macam appreciate if you could like share your journey on how you transition from legal to actually to where you are now.
Sure. Thank you for your question. For me, I think it was slightly simpler. I actually immediately upon returning to Malaysia and joining PNB, I made the conscious decision to join the investment team. I joined the International Fund Management Department back then. And reason being was very simple. I was serving my bond as a PNB scholar. And I asked myself the pointed question, for the 8 years of your life serving your bond, do you want to learn the most that you can from PNB's core business, which was investment, or do you want to be more in a support role? And I told myself, yeah, I probably want to be at the front office and really learn the trade that PNB is known for, which is investment asset management. So it was a bit straightforward. So I don't want to say that what I'm going to share with you is exactly what I went through. But what I would say is this. First of all, get yourself equipped with probably some of the diplomas or postgraduate masters. I did one myself. I did also a very simple diploma when I started working to equip myself with the basic information. But it's not just that, not just about having the basic foundation, it's also showcasing to prospective employers that you are very committed and keen to make that transition. Then number two, of course, without a doubt, finding the right mentor. I'm very lucky. I just fell into the presence of very strong women like Puan Mona and Puan Nick. But I would also say that I went through a journey of meeting a lot of different people when I was younger for legal events, investment events, conferences, and find a mentor that can help you through that. But most importantly, number three is after having a mentor giving you some form of guidance in how to evolve or how to adapt to something new, I would really strongly suggest for you to speak. If you're in a firm that I presume provides investment services as well, speak to your supervisor, speak to HR, speak to someone. If it's something that you really feel strongly about, you've gone through the process and feel that you think you have what it takes, you must take the strategic steps to get there, which is one is to do that small certification preparatory work, and that's for yourself and also for the organization or the team that you choose to join, because you must be responsible. You can't just join expecting someone to teach you everything. You must also bring something to the table, and doing an extra certificate shows that amount of commitment. But speak to them and see if it's something that you can explore, because if you show your own proactiveness, you show your own interest, and also you show what you bring to the table, I'm fairly certain any prospective team leader in investment team would actually be happy to take it. If you're doing, I've met a girl before, she was actually doing legal documentation for bond issuances. And from then on, she tapped on that experience of hers to go into credit analysis. And she's still there and enjoying it. I think she's been there for about 8 years now since I heard of her shift. So she capitalized on a skill set that she was learning during her current employment, which is preparing bond issuances documents, and used that to move on into the investment field. So I hope that helps, at least for you to start somewhere.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, that helps a lot. That's why currently I'm actually enrolled in CFA. So I'll actually be taking level 1 this August. So yeah, I'm working towards that now. Thank you so much, Mandria.
All the best to you.
Yes, all the best. I'm very happy to hear that we have one more candidate. In fact, I think what you have just shared earlier, I think it certainly echoes with the team of IWD. So we are all responsible for our own thoughts and actions. So definitely this is something that only we ourselves can do. All right. So I guess we were near the ending of this today's session. So I would throw in one last question, a quick one, before we all end. So maybe to point one of us, since you didn't get a chance to speak. Could you share, do you have any final advice for the future leaders out there? Or is there a change that you would like to see that would happen with this new generation?
I think maybe for the ladies, I think there's always this people talking about the glass ceiling. Don't let that discourage you, as the glass ceiling can be broken. Personally, I think one should continue to equip themselves with knowledge, as knowledge is power. You must believe in yourself. Regardless of what people say, you must always believe in yourself. So Hadina was saying just now that she wanted to be an investment analyst. So when I started out as an investment analyst, by the way, and I remember someone saying to me, investment analyst, what's that? And they were doubtful. So I said, this person doesn't even know what an investment analyst is. And I just continued to pursue it. And I started from ground zero with zero knowledge as well. And what Puan Duraini said is true. You must equip yourself. It's a lot of hard work. I put a lot of heart and passion into that. And I said to myself, if I want to be an analyst, I must be the best analyst in town. So I made myself, I was very, very fortunate also that I was able to work in, at that time, one of the best research houses in Malaysia at that time, which was Crosby Securities. So I always believe that if you want to do something, you have to do it well. If not, don't do it at all. So all leaders, we are trustees. We are answerable to, for me, as you know, we are answerable to God, Allah, and we must always do the right thing. That's what differentiates us between a good leader and and an average leader. So that's what I think we should have in whatever we do, and it doesn't matter which gender, whether it's a man or a woman, gray, green, or blue. That's what I think. That's the advice I would give to all leaders, regardless of gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Wana. Next, Puan Dura.
Okay, thanks Jiho, and thanks Mona for that very insightful comment. From me, I would say, know yourself, know your strength, know your capabilities, and I think you should be honest to yourself about it. Oftentimes, we sometimes feel that we have all these great aspirations and we think we deserve it. But remember, to take on all those roles, you must also be equipped, and you must also have what it takes to take on those roles. Taking on those roles is not just for yourself, it's for the organization that you serve. There is a paymaster, there is an organization that will be employing you. So your skill set, your strength should align with what it is that you're going to be doing for the organization that you choose to be a part of. So as much as I always like to say, you should do your best, go for everything that you've ever dreamed of, be the best CEO that you want to be the greatest CIO, and so forth. You can, of course, but you must also know yourself, because not every single one of us are the same. And success doesn't mean the same thing, i.e. everyone has to be a CEO, everyone has to be a CIO, or everyone has to be a COO. Success just means, to me, in the end of the day, being the best in what you can do, and in doing that, you benefit not just your family that you primarily serve, you're also benefiting the organization, most importantly, that you work with, because that is where the foundation for all of this is actually happening. So know yourself, know your strength, and align it with the interests of the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Puan Dura. All right, so we'll wrap up this session with Puan Nick's last wise word.
Yeah, just one advice to the lady who asked just now. Actually, I took a pay cut to join this industry, 25% pay cut to join this industry. So, because to me, it's not about the money. I think Mona talked about passion. This is what I love to do. And it's basically a hobby for me. I rest. I'm always resting. When I go home, I rest from office. When I'm cut to the office, I rest from home. So, but at the office, basically, well, in terms of your entire life, actually, to always do good, because I do strongly believe in karma. You know, whenever you do good, and no matter how difficult it is, you know, good things will always come back to you. And if it's difficult, do it small, do it in bite sizes, you know, that they call it micro steps, right? Do it small, but as long as you move towards the right direction, you know, and always say only good things, you know, always constructive and all that, and never do anything negative to others. I think that is very crucial if you are serious about building your career, because only then your career path will be a sustainable one. Because this industry, unfortunately, when it comes to integrity in particular, it will stay with you. The stigma will stay with you for throughout your career life, because this industry, it involves money and all that, and it involves trust. So that must be something that you have to carry with yourself all the time. That will follow you as an individual, not just company. It will follow you as an individual with your name in it on the tag. Thank you.
Thank you. So tonight we have had a very enriching session. I hope all of our audience out there will find the advice helpful to their career in the future. So now we have a short poll to gather some feedbacks on your experience with today's webinar. I hope you can help to complete it. And also before we end, I would like to also do a little bit of announcement. So if you are feeling to have, sorry, can you add also the slide? So we have some upcoming workshops which are open to the public. So the first one is the imposter phenomenon on 29th of March, which is next Monday. If you are looking to boost your confidence or in need of a pick-me-up to perform better at work, do feel free to sign up for this workshop. It is open to public. As for our members and candidates of the society, do join our masterclass series with Tunku Ali Zakri alias on 1st April and be one of the lucky winners for an exclusive close-up fireside chat with him. And with that, here we have the registration QR code. You can quickly take a snapshot and maybe you can sign up later. So with that, I would like to thank our speakers again for being with us tonight. And we have reached the end of our webinar. Thank you for your time. And I do hope your wisdom will help our audience. And good night. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.